Y'all, welcome back to the channel, my ravens. Today I am bringing you a Decades Legacy mod and CC finds video. So if you're new to the channel, thanks for joining. My name is Misty, and if you're into this type of thing as well as Let's Plays, casts, builds, etc., don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you can become a part of the Raven family. If you hit that notification bell, it will notify you whenever videos like this and other videos go live on my channel. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. I am actually going to go in with a member that I had already created, and I'm just going to download a random empty Decades house from the gallery, and we're going to go over some of the mods and CC that I use in my Decades gameplay so that we can kind of go over what I use in my game. Now I am going to link a Tumblr Mod link in the description box below so that you guys can go and look at the links and download things that you may want to kind of play with in your own gameplay, but these are just things that I play with in my Decades. I'm actually looking for a certain one, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. Okay, we have ourselves a house. I am just going to cheat her some money. And we're going to go through some of the stuff. Please ignore her very not Decade appropriate clothing. So some of the build buy things that I use in my game are related to, like, for example, this oven. This is a mod that is by Little Bobold, and it is the medieval cookbook, Yo cookbook mod, and you can find that on her Patreon. And you download the mod and it comes already stocked with all of the recipes. So if you go here and you go to cook, it's got gruel, porridge, pottage, onion soup, and as she gains her cooking skill, there's going to be more recipes that are going to pop up. So this also works as a fireplace. So when it gets cold out, she could actually use this as a fireplace. So she's going to light the fireplace and it's going to heat the home. So if your place is small like this one and you don't have the room for an actual fireplace, you can actually use this oven as a fireplace as opposed to having to have another fireplace. So in this situation, she can't make crap because she doesn't A, know how to cook anything, but B, she doesn't have any ingredients. She may need a fridge. Let's see if I can find her a fridge. I also use some of the medieval things in my Decades. So like for instance, this here is a medieval, I found this at thesensemedieval.tumblr.com. So if you just type in, I think I searched medieval CC Sims 4 and I found it. This is a fridge, and so now let's look and see if it'll let her cook. It's probably not going to because she's off the grid, but let's just try. Okay, so she can make honey tea. So let's let her make honey tea. She has a fridge now, it'll let her do it. And there's two versions. So this one has this little rack here, right? And the kettle sits on the rack. The other one has like shelves. I prefer this one just because it actually looks a little bit more old-timey. They both look really the same, other than one has shelves and one has just this one little circular pot. I have no idea where she put that, but now she can drink her tea. And then we'll just put it in the fridge there and it'll stay good for her. Alright, so another thing that I use for the Decades Challenge, depending upon how far along I am, like in the 1890s, I would probably use this fridge because it's old, right? But like say right now, I'm currently in the 1910s, I use Linslew's Pie Safe as a fridge. So it's Pie Safe, but it's a fridge. And then for like composting things, what did I say you can't? Objects can't go in the floor. This is a compost bucket, so you can put your trash in it, but what it does is it makes fertilizer for your garden. So if you're going to be like gardening for your challenge, all of your trash will go here, and then you can retrieve the compost. It gives you fertilizer so you can fertilize your garden so your garden grows better. So I use this as a trash can as opposed to a regular trash can, just because it gives me fertilizer for my gardening. And that is made by Ravisheen. And then we have our I don't actually know that I still have it, but you can get a pitcher, like a wash basin. It's a pitcher. I've already removed it out of my game because it no longer. Once I use the 1890 stuff and I go out of the decade, I remove it out. That way it's not in my way. Some people don't do that. Some people leave it in, but I like to make room for the next decade stuff. But it's a wash basin pitcher. So like, you know those old-timey pitchers that you would like pick up and you would just pour the water? It's one of those. And it's porcelain. And so I would use that right now for water. But what I do currently have is a medieval one, because I do have a medieval challenge going on. And so it looks like this. And so I'll just have her come out here and she can use this to, she has no water. Let me turn the water on. If you're off the grid, obviously this is not going to work. Is this not going to work because I've got it outside? Like, what's the deal? Let's try that. I think she's off the grid. Okay, so that being the case, she's off the grid. She can't use that. I would use the dry sink from Linslew. And it looks like this. It is a dry sink, so it doesn't need anything. And she's too uncomfortable to use the sink. She's just sitting there drinking tea. Drinking tea, drinking tea. What else? I also have a outhouse. Like an actual outhouse. Is that part of her problem? Does she need to go to the loo? Let's go let her use the bathroom. This was made by Amaya Sims. And they just go in and use the loo. And so you could use this in place of needing to use the bush. Additionally, I think there may be other I now have Ravishing's Rags to Riches kind of stuff, so this would be like a porta potty. I don't know how you guys feel about that with Decades. I prefer like the outhouse still for Decades, but this is by 20th Century. It's a kid's toilet. It's just a pot that they sit on as opposed to like this plastic toilet. And for the bathtub, I pretty much just use anything with like claw feet. This one is shabby chic. It's got like that old-timey plumbing. Charlie Pancakes has a really nice one. It's called her soak tub, if I can find it. Looks very similar to the shabby chic, only it's not as dirty. Oak House Bathtub is a claw. It's very nice. That is by Pierre Sim. What else? Sims Resource also is a very good place to go for CC, as well as the cottage garden. It's called cottage garden. Again, I'll have all of this linked in the Tumblr page. Mod the Sims is another good place. Let's go ahead and go into cast. I want to show you some of the clothing. As far as mods go, I have more really clothing more so than I do mods themselves. As far as my mods go, I really just have the regular mods. Like, I have my cooking mods, I have my I have my Ravishing mods. So like for outdoors, especially if you're off the grid, so like you're not gonna have access to water, you're not gonna have access to lighting, of course, because you're gonna be using candles in your 1890s. But if you go to Ravishing Patreon and you download her eco stuff, she has a whole section for eco. It comes with I wonder if I type Ravishing eco, if that'd be easier. So this is a wind turbine. So this is more for eco lifestyle, but you can use some of these things for your decades. For instance, this well will give you water. So if you use the well, then the well will give you water. Or you could use this water pump. The water pump will give you water. And those are the two things that I would use if it were me. So whether, like in the beginning, I always start with like the water pump because they're poor, right? So they're gonna pump for water. And then as they get a little bit more money, then I would say they would like dig a well and they'd have a standing well in place, right? So here she could go and she could gather herself some water. And now she can go over here and brush her teeth. So she didn't have any water. That's why she couldn't do anything. So even your dry sink is going to need water. If you're off the grid, you have to have water. So you're going to need that water pump. And let's go ahead and hop her into CAS, and let's take a look at some of the 1890s clothes, because majority of my stuff and my finds happen to have, like, they're dealing with clothes. So we'll take a look at all of that. Okay. And they're all going to be in like the outfits section as well. Let's just click this over to CC, and I think that might be easier. Alright, so when I'm looking through here, we've got this gown. So some of the biggest that you're going to find would be Vintage Simstress has tons of stuff. Historical Sims Life. Linslu has quite a bit of stuff. My personal favorite is Historical Sims Life. Not Historical Sims Life, I lied. My personal favorite is Happy Life Sims. And when you download it, it comes up as Lonely Boy. When you like open that folder up, I have a lot of vintage Sims, especially for 1890s. Just Vintage Sims has a ton of 1890s, but I'm currently in, like I said, the 1910s. And so all of my stuff for 1910s I'm using right now is made by Happy Life Sims. But you can use tons of stuff like that. So Vintage Life Sims has a ton of stuff, as you can see here. So there is this gown here, and everything that is here that you see is 1890s, because I just went and downloaded a whole bunch of 1890s stuff. This is the bathing suit, and all of this would be 1890s attire for the 1890s decade that you could wear as a female. Obviously, the men and the children have clothing that you could find as well. This right here is a riding outfit, so this would be more athletic. And I think this is a coat. But those are the finds that I have, and I know this seems very disorganized, but again, majority of the stuff that I have isn't really mods. It's more the findings of clothing and things like that. But I find it's easier if I just give you guys the links, and then you can go and you can take a look at the stuff yourself and just download what you want and what you think is best. Some of the other things is, I would say that Historical Sims Life blog spot has a lot of stuff that's like Edwardian, Victorian, medieval, Regency. So she's got like a lot of time periods, whereas Vintage Sims does the same thing. So it's not just like decades, it's more like you can find stuff all the way dated back like prehistoric to present. So depending upon what you're looking for, you're going to find a vast array of CC, and it's all going to be mainly clothing related for those things. If you're looking for build by things, that can sometimes be a little bit more difficult, just because there's not a whole lot out there, but what you see before you is pretty much what's out there. There are some Skyrim objects that are out there that can be used, and I find that if you search medieval stuff, you're gonna find more decades appropriate things for your decades. Even though it's listed as medieval, it works really well for decades. So I have a lot of things that are listed as medieval, even though they're not decades appropriate. Like, they're not listed as decades, they're listed as medieval, but I find personally they work best for medieval. Like this, for instance. This is by rimmings.tumblr.com. This is a book. It's technically medieval, but it's a computer, but it's a book. So when they sit down at it, it looks like they're writing in it, but it's a computer. So I found that when I was doing a medieval search, but it really works for my decades as well. So those kind of things are things that I would recommend you look into. So I am going to go ahead and leave this episode here. I had to break up the Tumblr post into 2 parts. It wouldn't allow me to put all of the stuff into one post. So do know there are 2 parts, and go take a look at those links, and I hope that it brings you a fruitful search. And don't forget to like, comment, and share, and I will see you guys in the next post and the next video, and until then, I'm going to fly for now. Bye y'all.